But
welcome back. It's been a while, I know. Best intentions to do more of these kind of videos, vlog style videos, but also interspersed with what I did the other day as well, which is my editing workflows. I really want to try and get a nice balance between the two. And today I want to cover a couple of lenses. Hang on, the rice is boiling over. Be right back. And back. Okay, as I was saying, this is a chance to talk about some lenses that I've rediscovered. I've had a bit of a conundrum since I upgraded to the Lumix GH5S from the GH4, because I used to use this 18-35 Nikon mount Sigma. Beautiful lens, very much a favourite of a lot of filmmakers when you adapt it via the Metabone speed booster. I've got the XL speed booster, which is designed for full frame really, as opposed to the Ultra, which is designed for APS-C. This is an APS-C lens, so while it's not designed for this necessarily, it worked beautifully on the GH4 because that had a bit of a crop factor, particularly in 4K, but even in HD it wouldn't get any vignetting around the outside. Unfortunately, with the GH5S, it's got a wider, fortunately, because it's a fantastic feature, a wider aspect ratio sensor. And that means that, unfortunately, this now vignettes very heavily with the XL adapter. It's just useless, basically. Still a great lens, and I'm still going to hold on to it because I do have a straight adapter, not reduced magnification. It means that I can actually still get the beautiful image from this, but it's going to be a bit more cropped. It's not going to be the wide full 18 that you get with this. So I've been looking for an alternative to that. Hang on, here's my wife. Hello?
Hi. I was just gonna say, don't worry about noodles.
Don't worry about noodles?
Done.
I've put on a whole cup of rice, so I've got extra rice.
Okay, alright. Okay.
Cool, alright.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Noodles, rice. So I've been looking for an alternative to this. I don't mind the sides of it, some people don't like that, so I wouldn't even mind if it's a full frame glass equivalent. But it's really hard to find something as equivalent. You can't find an equivalent of this really in the Micro Four Thirds range of lenses, and all the Lumix or the Olympus lenses. There just isn't something that has, for one, the zoom between an 18-35 equivalent with such a fast aperture, going right down to, you know, sort of almost 1.1, almost 1 f1 with the speed booster on it. So it's really hard to achieve that. There is the Lumix 12mm 1.4, which is a beautiful looking, a Lumix Leica, a beautiful looking lens. I'm very tempted, but that is very expensive and I'm not quite ready to upgrade. And of course it's still just a prime. I still love my primes, but this was like having a couple of different primes all in one. So 12mm is looking great, but I did see a recent video, which I'll link to in the description, comparing that 12mm Lumix Leica 1.4 to the Lumix 14mm 2.5, which I've got on the camera right now. This is what I'm shooting with at the moment. I've always had that lens. It's actually quite a cheap little pancake lens in the Lumix range, and it's one of the original ones I got, and I'd actually forgotten about it. It'd been literally sitting in a drawer going dusty. This video compares the 12mm to this with a wide angle adapter, which is also Lumix, which is actually a Lumix adapter. So as you'll see there, it's wide 0.79, really fantastic adapter. It's very sharp. It doesn't really seem to be degrading the image too much. It goes on the 14mm perfectly. It's supposed to work with the 14 to 32, I think it is, mil zoom, Lumix zoom as well. Haven't tried that, but on the 14mm, it's getting the equivalent of an 11mm wide angle. So taking the 14 down to 11, so even wider than the 12. Only 2.5, it's not 1.4 like the 12mm, but as the video I'm linking to describes, actually for vlogging, if you use autofocus, which I don't, you'll see I'm manually changing that as I go, it actually is better because you've got a little bit more room to play with. It's not going to be struggling with such shallow depth of field. Not a big issue for me, but I still find 2.5 is actually still pretty decent. I've got a little bit of fall off in the background there, nice bit of separation, not a huge amount, nowhere near as much as I'd get with the 18 to 35 at its widest, but still really nice. So that's one of my little rediscoveries, and I bought this secondhand for $99. Apparently they don't manufacture these anymore, but you can find them secondhand. I don't know how easy it is to find, but it's actually a really nice little wide angle adapter. You will be getting some loss of quality, but it's honestly really sharp. Okay, so I did a little test at the office at work yesterday between that and this lens, which I bought from Richard Wong. You will remember Richard Wong I met up with when I was looking at the GH5S. He was one of the first few to actually get to test out the pre-release model, and he kindly let me test it out, which I covered a while back. So he does a lot of work with Nikon, and he's got some beautiful Nikon lenses. So in trying to find what would be a 35mm full frame lens that I really like, I wanted to play with the zoom, which would cover a nice wide angle through to about a 35. So this is a 16 to 35 Nikon. Have a look at that. Really nice lens. It's only a f4, so it's not a super expensive, super fast lens. It's fairly large, but it's a great way to test out, okay, what am I going to like? What's going to be a nice wide angle, which will, for one, be equivalent of what I could get to with the 18 to 35 for APS-C in a full frame lens. I was actually quite surprised. It wasn't until I got it right to its widest, 16mm, even on the GH5S, that I really liked the look of it. I was thinking sort of a 20 to 24mm was going to be wide enough for me to really like that sort of aesthetic, that feel of. But I actually found I'm preferring it going even wider, which is why it's been actually great to test this out, again on the Metabone Speed Booster XL. So on the GH5S, the Metabone Speed Booster at 16:9 is giving a crop on a full frame lens of 1.17. If you go all the way up to DCI 4K, it's 1.15. 1.149, 1.15. So it's actually getting really close to the look of the actual full frame lens. But it is a lot more weight. So have a look at this comparison I did. Shooting with this lens and the 14mm with this wide angle adapter on it, I shot just a bottle of product that I had on my desk at the office, and I was able to get an exact match between the two, almost identical, with the Nikon lens at 16mm at its widest. Side by side, you could almost say they look just as good, which was great because it means I've only borrowed this lens. Thank you very much, Richard. But it means that for $99 extra, I was able to get a similar look with this adapter. Okay, it's not got the versatility of a zoom lens, it's not going to be up to the quality of a Nikon, but for a quick shot it came pretty close. And for the purposes that I need, which is some behind the scenes, some vlogging, if I start doing any handheld, having it at an arm's length and getting this sort of room around me, that's actually going to work quite well. Okay, so the other lens that I've rediscovered is the 14, again, 14 to 140. So this lens is the HD version, 14 to 140. It is not the sharpest tool in the box, you could say. It is, what is it again? It's 3.5 to 5.6, so not the fastest either, but it's image stabilized, which for the GH5S is a real bonus. So this is actually something I've rediscovered again. I shot on the GH4 some behind the scenes travel videos at work for a competition we did over in Sri Lanka, and I'm about to go to Sri Lanka in another couple of weeks, and I'm going to be doing some coverage of some great charitable foundation projects, some charitable projects through Dilma, who I work for. So this is going to come back out, and it's going to be a beauty to have on the GH5S to shoot that sort of thing. And again, even for vlogging, this is really good. But you know, one thing I noticed, and a lot of people don't talk about this, this is 14mm, the one on the camera is a 14mm, but the one on the camera is a pancake lens. So it actually gives you a wider look because it's further from your face, it's closer to the camera. This one, yeah, that probably about is twice as long as the pancake lens. So it actually does crop in a lot more. So while they're both the same, the pancake actually does, in practical use, when it's held at arm's length, give you a wider shot. So that's one thing a lot of people don't consider. It's actually from the front of the lens that you have to measure, not from the body of the camera. Film lenses will actually have a marker, so you can measure your tape from there when you're doing actual focus pulling and taking measurements with a tape. You take it from the front of the lens itself. So one thing to consider. So this is still going to be really useful, especially if I'm going to do any walking shots. The pancake, it's wide, so camera shake is not going to be as obvious, but this is going to be even better because if I'm walking around, it's going to have that stabilization. And I can also turn on the digital stabilization to work in conjunction with the OIS in the lens. It means it's going to crop in a little bit, but it's going to make it just that little bit more steady again. So I might at some stage invest in a gimbal. That might be on the cards, but at the stage, no. So I just want to use a handheld. So there we have it. A couple of lenses I've rediscovered. I'm going to hold on to this 18 to 35. I've also seen that Sigma have just come out with a beautiful looking full frame lens, which is 14 to 24. That is not a huge zoom range, it's not like this one, but I would really like to see how that looks on the Metabone Speed Booster XL on the GH5S with that extra wide field of view from the sensor, multi-aspect sensor. Again, very expensive. It's one of the Art Series lenses. It's been featured at NAB in the last few weeks, and some people are starting to test it and receive it. It's now shipping, so might get into a store at some point and test that out. Could be on the cards too. My list keeps piling up. So anyway, there's a quick catch up. I'm going to get back to you again soon, I promise. This is something I want to do a lot more of. Quick catch ups like this, just to chat and talk about lenses, lighting, and some of my editing workflow. So until next time,